chosen ones. Somebody loves you so hard they're out here catching bodies in your name, not literally. Or is it? Because right now, at this exact moment, while you're sitting there wondering why your enemies have gone quiet, someone is dismantling their entire world piece by piece. You felt it, that weird shift in energy last week when your biggest hater suddenly disappeared from your timeline. That strange silence from the person who was plotting your downfall, that unexpected peace after months of warfare. You thought they just gave up. You thought they got bored. But bodies have been dropping left and right, and you didn't even notice the crime scene because the evidence was cleaned up before you woke up. Look who finally showed up. Yeah, you, the one scrolling at 3 in the morning, looking for something that feels real, looking for proof that you're not losing your mind, looking for confirmation that what you're feeling isn't crazy. Well, buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you is going to flip everything you thought you knew about who's really in your corner. Who's really riding for you, who's been moving in silence like a shadow with a switchblade and a prayer. See, while you've been out here thinking you're alone, thinking nobody sees you, thinking nobody cares, there's been someone operating in frequencies you can't even detect, someone who's been handling your problems before you even knew they were problems. Someone who loves you so violently, so completely, so dangerously, that they've been out here dismantling your enemies piece by piece, and you didn't even notice, did you? Because that's the thing about real protection. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need credit. It doesn't post about it on social media. It just moves, and the bodies drop. And by bodies I mean their confidence, their plans, their ability to sleep at night, their peace of mind. Yeah, those bodies. Now I know what you're thinking. This sounds insane. This sounds like some conspiracy theory. This sounds like I'm about to sell you something or tell you to join a cult. But stay with me, because you've felt it, haven't you? That weird shift in energy when someone who was coming for you suddenly backed off. That strange turn of events when your hater suddenly had their own crisis to deal with. That peculiar moment when someone who was plotting against you mysteriously lost their footing, their confidence, their position, their power. And you thought it was coincidence, you thought it was karma, you thought it was just luck, but it wasn't. It was someone moving chess pieces on a board you can't even see, someone who decided that anyone who hurts you, anyone who plots against you, anyone who even thinks about dimming your light is going to have a very, very bad time. And they've been making good on that promise every single day. You just haven't been paying attention because you've been too busy surviving, too busy healing, too busy becoming who you're meant to be. While they've been clearing the path ahead of you like a spiritual snowplow, removing obstacles you'll never even know existed, let me paint you a picture, because this is where it gets wild. You know that person who was talking behind your back, spreading lies, poisoning the well, trying to turn people against you? Yeah, them. Well, funny thing happened, didn't it? Suddenly their own secrets started surfacing. Suddenly people started seeing through their mask. Suddenly the very tactics they used against you backfired and caught them in the throat, and you thought that was justice. You thought that was just the universe balancing the scales. But no, that was intervention. That was someone who loves you, pulling strings you can't see, pressing buttons you don't have access to, making phone calls in dimensions you can't pronounce. Because here's what you need to understand. When someone truly loves you, and I'm not talking about surface love, the Instagram love, the performative love, I'm talking about that deep, ancient, soul-level love that transcends logic and enters the realm of spiritual warfare. When someone loves you like that, they don't just sit back and watch you suffer. They don't just send thoughts and prayers. They become the storm. They become the reckoning. They become the thing your enemies have nightmares about. And they do it all without you ever asking, without you ever knowing, without ever needing credit. You want to know why that toxic person suddenly lost interest in tormenting you? It wasn't because they got bored. It was because someone made it clear that every action has a reaction, and the reaction they were about to face was going to be biblical. You want to know why that opportunity that seemed impossible suddenly opened up? It wasn't luck. It was someone moving mountains you can't see, removing barriers you didn't know existed, creating pathways that shouldn't logically exist. You want to know why you're still standing when by all accounts you should have crumbled? It's because someone has been holding you up in ways that defy physics, defy logic, defy the very laws of nature itself, and they do it because they can't not do it, because their love for you is so intense, so consuming, so overwhelming, that sitting idle while you suffer is not an option. So they move, and they move hard, and they move without mercy, and the people who tried to break you suddenly find themselves broken, and they never quite understand why. They never quite figure out what happened. They just know that something shifted, something changed, and suddenly the target on your back became a target on theirs. Now here's where it gets even deeper, because this person who loves you, this guardian, this silent warrior, they're not doing this because they think you're weak. They're not doing this because they think you can't handle your own battles. They're doing this because they see your potential. They see your destiny, they see the version of you that's coming, and they'll be damned if they let anyone get in the way of that transformation. See, you're too busy evolving, too busy shedding skin, too busy becoming, too busy ascending to waste time dealing with mosquitoes and gnats. So they handle it, they swat them away, they eliminate the distractions, they clear the static, they make sure that when you're ready to level up, there's nothing in your way, no surprise attacks, no ambushes waiting in the darkness, because they've already swept the room. They've already checked the shadows, they've already neutralized the threats before you even entered the building. And that is love, that is protection. That is the kind of loyalty that doesn't show up in greeting cards, but shows up in your enemies suddenly losing sleep, suddenly losing power, suddenly losing their grip on reality itself. Let's talk about patterns, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. Think back over the last year, the last 2 years, the last 5 years. How many times did something that should have destroyed you just mysteriously fall apart? How many times did someone who was coming for you suddenly have their own crisis? How many times did a situation that looked impossible suddenly resolve itself in ways you can't explain? You chalked it up to resilience, you chalked it up to luck, you chalked it up to your own strength. And yeah, you are strong, yeah, you are resilient. But there's been a force multiplier at work, a cosmic backup, a silent partner who's been running interference while you've been running forward. See, they don't want credit. They don't need recognition. They just need you to make it to where you're going, and they will burn down entire forests to clear your path, and you'll never even smell the smoke. Because by the time you get there, the ashes have been swept away, the evidence removed, and all you see is an open road. Think about that person who betrayed you, who stabbed you in the back, who smiled in your face while sharpening the knife. Yeah, them. What happened to them? Really, what happened after they crossed you? Because I bet if you really think about it, their life didn't exactly flourish, did it? I bet things started falling apart for them in ways that seemed almost poetic, almost too perfect to be random. Their relationships crumbled, their opportunities dried up, their reputation took hits they couldn't recover from, their mental health spiraled, their confidence shattered, and everyone around them started seeing what you saw all along. And you thought that was just karma, that was just the universe correcting itself. But it was more targeted than that, it was more intentional than that, because karma is patient, but love is immediate. And when someone loves you the way this person loves you, karma doesn't get to take its time, karma gets accelerated, karma gets weaponized, karma becomes a tactical strike, and your betrayer never stood a chance. Now let's go deeper, because this isn't just about enemies, this is about obstacles, this is about closed doors that suddenly swung open, about impossible situations that suddenly became possible, about resources that appeared out of nowhere, about connections that materialized at exactly the right moment. You thought you were just lucky, you thought you were just grinding hard enough, but there's been someone behind the scenes making calls you didn't make, opening doors you didn't knock on, creating opportunities that didn't exist until they spoke them into existence, and they do it because your success is their mission. Your happiness is their obsession. Your elevation is their purpose, and they respect that altar every single day with actions you'll never see, with sacrifices you'll never know about, with battles fought in dimensions you can't access. Here's what's really happening. Every time someone plots against you, every time someone wishes you harm, every time someone tries to block your path, there's an immediate cosmic response. There's a rebalancing, there's a recalibration, and that person who loves you, they're the one initiating the sequence. They're the one who says, "Not on my watch." They're the one who activates defenses you didn't know you had, who calls in favors from places you've never been, who pulls strings connected to puppets you've never seen. And suddenly the person who was coming for you finds themselves in quicksand, finds themselves in darkness, finds themselves in a maze with no exit. And they panic, and they scramble, and they wonder what the hell happened, and the answer is simple. They messed with someone who's protected, someone who's covered, someone who's loved so hard that the universe itself bends to keep them safe. You want proof? Look at your life right now. Really look at it. How are you still here after everything you've been through? How are you still sane after the betrayals, the losses, the pain, the darkness? How are you still standing, still fighting, still believing, still hoping, when by all accounts you should be broken, shattered, destroyed? And the answer isn't just your strength. The answer isn't just your resilience. The answer is that you've never been fighting alone. You've had someone in your corner, someone in the shadows, someone in the spaces between spaces, who's been catching you when you fall, who's been lifting you when you can't stand, who's been breathing life into you when you wanted to give up. And they do it because they have to, because loving you isn't a choice for them. It's a compulsion, it's a calling, it's the reason they exist. And anyone who threatens that, anyone who tries to harm you, becomes public enemy number one in a war they don't even know they're losing. Now we need to talk about something most people don't understand. Real love, real protection doesn't look like what you see in movies. It doesn't look like someone jumping in front of a bullet. It doesn't look like dramatic confrontations or public displays. It looks like silence, calmment. It looks like distance. It looks like nothing happening at all on the surface. But underneath there's a war being waged. Your enemies are losing battles they don't even know they're fighting. Because this person who loves you, they operate in the invisible. They move in the undetectable. They strike in ways that leave no fingerprints, no evidence, no trace, just results, just outcomes. Just your enemies suddenly finding themselves in situations they can't explain, losing things they thought were secure, watching their plans crumble for reasons they can't identify, and they go crazy trying to figure it out, trying to understand what went wrong, but they never will, because they're looking for logical explanations for spiritual warfare. They're looking for human causes for cosmic intervention. Let me tell you how this really works, because it's not what you think. When someone is coming for you, when someone is plotting, when someone is planning your downfall, this person who loves you, they don't confront them directly. They don't make threats. They don't issue warnings. They just observe, and they wait, and then they move. And the move is always perfect, always precisely calibrated, always devastatingly effective. Maybe it's a word in the right ear. Maybe it's information that surfaces at the right time. Maybe it's an opportunity that vanishes. Maybe it's a relationship that implodes. Maybe it's confidence that evaporates. Maybe it's clarity that becomes confusion. But whatever it is, it stops the threat, it neutralizes the danger, it removes the obstacle, and you never know it happened. You just know you're safe. You just know you survived. You just know somehow, some way, you made it through another storm, and you think you did it alone, but you didn't. You had a guardian, you had a protector, you had someone who loves you so much that your enemies become their mission. And here's the thing that makes this even more powerful. This person doesn't do this for gratitude. They don't do this for recognition. They don't do this so you'll owe them or respect them or even know they exist. They do this because your well-being is their purpose. They do this because seeing you thrive is their reward. They do this because protecting you is as natural to them as breathing is to you, and so they move in silence. They operate in shadow, they work in the background, and you get all the credit, you get all the glory, you get all the victory. And they're perfectly fine with that, because they're not doing this for themselves, they're doing this for you. And that is the purest form of love that exists. Love that doesn't need to be seen, doesn't need to be acknowledged, doesn't need anything except for you to be okay, for you to be safe, for you to be free to become everything you're meant to be. And anyone who tries to stop that process, anyone who tries to interfere with your evolution becomes a problem that gets solved quietly, efficiently, permanently. You know what's crazy? Every person who's ever tried to destroy you is sitting somewhere right now confused about why their life fell apart, why things stopped working, why they can't seem to catch a break, and they have theories, they have excuses, they have stories they tell themselves. But deep down, they know something's off, they know something happened, they know they crossed a line and paid a price they didn't expect, and some of them even whisper your name when they're alone, wondering if somehow you cursed them, if somehow you're more powerful than they realized. And the truth is, you didn't curse them. You didn't even think about them long enough to curse them, because you were too busy surviving, too busy healing, too busy building. But someone else was thinking about them, someone else was watching them. Someone else was making sure they understood that actions have consequences, and the consequence of hurting you is a slow, systematic dismantling of everything they thought was solid, everything they thought was secure, everything they thought made them powerful. This is what people don't understand about real protection. It's not loud, it's not visible, it's not obvious. It's the enemy who suddenly can't focus, who suddenly makes mistakes, who suddenly loses support, who suddenly finds themselves isolated, exposed, vulnerable, and they don't know why. They just know everything changed after they came for you, and they can't prove anything, they can't point to anything concrete, but they feel it, they feel the weight, they feel the pressure, they feel like they're being watched, being judged, being measured, and found wanting. And that feeling, that pressure, that weight, that's the love that surrounds you. That's the protection that covers you. That's the force that ensures anyone who tries to harm you ends up harming themselves. And it happens every single time without fail, without exception, without mercy. Because the person who loves you doesn't believe in second chances when it comes to your safety, doesn't believe in forgiveness when it comes to your enemies, doesn't believe in mercy when it comes to people who try to stop your destiny. So now you're probably wondering, who is this person? Who is this guardian? Who is this silent warrior fighting battles on my behalf? And here's where it gets interesting, because the answer might surprise you, might challenge you, might make you rethink everything you thought you knew about who's really in your corner. See, it might not be who you think, it might not be who you expect, it might not be someone you talk to every day, or someone you see regularly, or someone who posts about you on social media, because real love doesn't perform, real protection doesn't advertise, real loyalty doesn't need an audience. It just acts, and it acts consistently, and it acts without needing anything in return. And when you start paying attention, when you start looking for the patterns, when you start noticing the timing, you'll see it, you'll feel it, you'll know there's been someone there all along. Someone who's had your back when everyone else turned theirs, someone who's believed in you when everyone else doubted, someone who's fought for you when everyone else walked away. And here's what makes this even more powerful. Once you recognize it, once you see it, once you understand that you're not alone, that you've never been alone, that there's been this force, this presence, this love operating on your behalf, something shifts inside you, something changes. You start moving different, you start speaking different, you start carrying yourself different, because you realize you're not just protected, you're chosen, you're not just covered, you're anointed, you're not just lucky, you're appointed, and that changes everything. That changes how you walk into rooms, how you handle conflicts, how you respond to threats, because you know you're not fighting alone. You know you've got backup, you've got support, you've got someone who will go to war for you without hesitation, without question, without limit. And that kind of assurance, that kind of confidence, that kind of peace, it makes you dangerous, it makes you unstoppable, it makes you the kind of person who walks through fire and doesn't even smell like smoke. Now I need you to understand something crucial. This love, this protection, this guardianship, it doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you dependent. It doesn't mean you're not capable of handling your own battles. It means you're so important, so vital, so essential to what's coming, that the universe itself has assigned you protection. It means your destiny is so significant that normal rules don't apply. It means your purpose is so powerful that opposition triggers automatic defense systems you didn't even know existed. See, while you've been questioning your worth, the universe has been treating you like royalty. While you've been wondering if you matter, cosmic forces have been rearranging themselves to ensure your success. While you've been feeling small, infinite love has been making you untouchable. And now it's time for the revelation, time for the understanding, time for the recognition of what's really been happening. Every obstacle that mysteriously disappeared, every enemy that suddenly fell apart, every door that impossibly opened, every resource that materialized from nowhere, it wasn't coincidence, it wasn't luck, it wasn't random, it was orchestrated, it was intentional. It was someone loving you so hard that reality itself had to adjust, someone protecting you so fiercely that your enemies became footnotes in your story, someone fighting for you so completely that your victory was never in question. And here's the climax of this whole thing. Your enemies are starting to figure it out. They're starting to connect the dots. They're starting to realize that everyone who came against you suffered the same fate. Everyone who tried to stop you hit the same wall. Everyone who plotted your downfall experienced their own. And they're scared now. They're backing up. They're retreating because they're beginning to understand that you're not someone to mess with. Not because of who you are, but because of who stands behind you, because of who fights for you, because of who loves you so hard that they're literally catching bodies in your name. Some of them are already gone, already neutralized, already removed from your timeline like they never existed. Others are in the process of falling, watching their world crumble, wondering how it all went wrong. And a few, a stubborn few, are still coming, still plotting, still thinking they can break through your defenses. They're about to learn the hardest lesson of their lives. They're about to discover what happens when you challenge love that has no limits. They're about to understand why everyone else failed. They're about to become another casualty in a war they never should have started. But here's the resolution. Here's where everything comes full circle. Remember when I told you somebody loves you so hard they're catching bodies in your name? Now you understand it's not metaphorical. When someone's confidence dies after attacking you, that's a body. When someone's reputation crumbles after betraying you, that's a body. When someone's peace evaporates after plotting against you, that's a body. When someone's entire life falls apart after crossing you, that's a body. And the graveyard is full of the ambitions, dreams, and plans of everyone who thought they could touch you. You're entering a new phase now, a phase where you understand your position, where you recognize your protection, where you acknowledge the love that surrounds you. And this changes everything. Your enemies sense it. They feel the shift. They know something's different. You're not the same person they used to torment. You're not the same target they used to attack. You're someone who knows they're loved that hard. Someone who knows they're protected that completely. Someone who knows they're chosen that definitively. And that knowledge, that understanding, that recognition, it transforms you. It elevates you. It empowers you. You stop worrying about who's against you because you know they've already lost. You stop stressing about obstacles because you know they'll be removed. You stop fearing the future because you know it's already been secured. The person who loves you this hard has already seen where you're going. They've already witnessed what you'll become. They've already observed the impact you'll have. And they've decided nothing gets to interfere with that timeline, nothing gets to block that destiny, nothing gets to stop that transformation. So here's what you do now. You walk with the swagger of someone who knows they're untouchable. You speak with the authority of someone who knows they're backed by forces beyond comprehension. You move with the confidence of someone who knows the war is already won. Because somebody loves you so hard that your enemies are just playing out a script where they lose. They're just acting out a story where you win. They're just participating in a narrative where you rise and they fall. Every morning you wake up, someone has already checked the perimeter. Every path you walk, someone has already cleared the way. Every room you enter, someone has already swept for danger. Every battle you face, someone has already rigged it in your favor. This isn't favoritism, this is love operating at a frequency most people will never experience. This is protection functioning at a level most people will never access. This is someone saying your life, your purpose, your destiny is so important that normal rules don't apply. Your enemies thought they were fighting you, but they were fighting something ancient, something powerful, something that doesn't play by human rules. They brought knives to a spiritual gunfight. They brought hate to a love war. They brought darkness to try to dim a light that's backed by infinite power. And now they're learning what happens when you touch someone who's been marked as untouchable, when you attack someone who's been designated as protected. When you come for someone who has backup from dimensions you can't even perceive. The person protecting you doesn't sleep, they don't rest, they don't take breaks, they're constantly monitoring, constantly moving, constantly ensuring your safety and success, and they do it gladly. They do it willingly. They do it with a devotion that would terrify your enemies if they truly understood it, because this isn't obligation, this is obsession in its purest form. This is love so intense it reshapes reality. This is protection so complete it removes threats before they fully form. You've been wondering why certain people suddenly disappeared from your life, why certain opportunities suddenly appeared, why certain doors suddenly opened, why certain problems suddenly solved themselves. Now you know, someone's been working overtime on your behalf. Someone's been moving heaven and earth for your benefit. Someone's been rewriting the rules to ensure your victory. And they're not done, they're just getting started. Because now that you know, now that you understand, now that you recognize what's really happening, they can operate even more powerfully. The bodies will keep dropping, the enemies will keep falling, the obstacles will keep disappearing. Because somebody loves you so hard that your failure is impossible. Your defeat is not an option. Your destruction is off the table. You're protected by love so fierce it makes demons tremble. You're covered by power so complete it makes angels jealous. You're chosen so definitively that the universe itself has accepted your victory as fact. This is your confirmation. This is your validation. This is your proof that you're not crazy for feeling protected. You're not imagining the divine intervention. You're not making up the supernatural support. It's real, it's active, it's working on your behalf every second of every day. Somebody loves you so hard they're out here catching bodies in your name, and that's not going to stop. That's not going to change. That's not going to diminish. If anything, it's intensifying. It's growing stronger. It's becoming more aggressive about your success. So walk like you know it. Talk like you feel it, move like you believe it, because you're not just protected, you're weaponized by love. You're not just chosen, you're defended by forces that make your enemies question everything they thought they knew about power. You're not just special, you're so vital to what's coming that the universe itself has mobilized to ensure you make it. I must interrupt this transmission for just a moment. Are you really chosen? Prove it. It's easy to watch videos about chosen ones. It's another thing to put yourself to the test. If you're still here, that means something. But talk is cheap. Real chosen ones take action. That's why I built Destiny Engine. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the dark elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve divine justice. You put on the headphones, press play, and watch your enemies choke on the rope their own lies created. If you're done consuming and ready to prove you're chosen, start your destiny engine for $1 today, join the Obsidian Inner Order live checks, and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. Let me tell you what happens next, because this is where it gets even wilder. The person who's been protecting you, they've been operating at maybe 30% capacity. They've been holding back, they've been measured in their response. But now that you know, now that you're aware, now that you've acknowledged their presence, the gloves come off, the restrictions lift, the full force of their love gets unleashed. And your enemies, the ones still standing, the ones still plotting, they're about to experience something biblical. Remember that person who's been quietly planning your downfall for months, the one who thinks they're moving in secret. They don't know it yet, but their entire support system is about to crumble. Every ally they thought they had is about to see their true nature. Every plan they've carefully crafted is about to unravel in ways that will make their heads spin, and they'll sit there in the wreckage of their own schemes, wondering how you knew, how you prepared, how you turned everything around, but you didn't do anything. You just existed under protection so complete that their defeat was written before they even started. This is the part nobody tells you about being chosen. It's not just about your success, it's about the complete and total neutralization of anything that opposes your purpose. It's about the systematic removal of every barrier between you and your destiny. It's about someone loving you with such violent perfection that your enemies become case studies in what happens when you touch the untouchable, when you plot against the protected, when you war against someone who has already won. And here's something that's going to blow your mind. This protection isn't new. It's been there since day one. Every childhood trauma that tried to break you but only made you stronger, that was this love operating. Every relationship that tried to destroy you but only taught you your worth, that was this protection working. Every failure that tried to define you but only redirected you toward your true path, that was this force guiding you. You've been under coverage your entire life. You just didn't have the eyes to see it until now. Think about the times you should have died but didn't, the accidents you walked away from without a scratch, the situations that should have destroyed your mind but only expanded your consciousness, the betrayals that should have made you bitter but only made you wiser. That wasn't luck. That wasn't a chance. That was someone saying, not this one is mine. That was someone declaring, this one has work to do, a destiny to fulfill, a purpose to complete. That was someone loving you so hard that even death had to ask permission before approaching you. And permission was denied. Every single time. Your enemies never stood a chance. They just didn't know it until now. But you do. You know it. You feel it. You understand it. And that understanding changes everything. Welcome to your new reality, chosen one. Welcome to recognizing the love that's been fighting for you all along. Welcome to knowing that somebody loves you so hard that catching bodies in your name is just another day's work, and they wouldn't have it